got Arfield! He's been threading that recently, and all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Burnley win the next ball. It's Rory now. On the outside, decent.
Barnes! He got it! Ashley Barnes with it! What a cross from Rory! And there was Ashley Barnes! And Burnley leading the derby.
Knocks it quickly, finds Benson in space at the byline. Can Burnley get a goal here? Back for Brownell, saved by the keeper.
Burnley won it to the end. That is magnificent. They deserve that.
On it by Paul Teller, off for a hat-trick.
He's got it. Hat-trick for Nathan Teller. Oh, he's on fire at the minute. 3-0 Burnley. It's Nathan Teller's day. And Burnley are 3 up here. Fantastic derby.
Here's Benson, can he go on the outside? Comes inside, top shot.
Oh, the goal. Manuel Benson once more. That is top class. Burnley have done it. Fantastic. Clarets deserve the championship title. They've been the best side throughout the campaign. Burnley have won the second tier. What a fantastic achievement. The players have been magnificent.
Yes, hello everyone, welcome along to the latest episode of the TurfCast podcast. Full-time show with me, Joe Redmond, after Burnley's win in the third round of the FA Cup yesterday down at the Select Car Leasing Stadium, as it's called these days, against League One Reading. Edged past them, to be fair. Obviously, they took us to extra time, but then the quality showed in extra time when we brought on the better players, because obviously we did make 11 changes, to be fair. But some of the lads on the pitch did do very well, and our reward for that is a trip down to Southampton, a cup draw that nobody wants. But we'll get into that in a second. As you can see, I've only got Chris with me today. It was the FA Cup. Sam's official line was send the kids out, and Andrew's hamsters, I think, are struggling at the minute. But Chris, how are you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. It's like you say, it's not a big turnout tonight. This is like when you learn about characters in the team. When you come on for the FA Cup.
Yeah, honestly, to be fair, I weren't even going to do one. Then I put it in group yesterday, didn't I? I think even you said, what, you're doing one for the FA Cup? But then you were like, yeah, I'll definitely be on, mate. You know me.
Andrew's in the chat, to be fair.
Yeah, Andrew's normally like the biggest character, but he is genuinely ill, I think, to be fair, is Andrew. I'll be sending the club doctor around to his house. Speaking of the devil, evening, lads. Shit of a jaw. At least it's not City, probably next round. But yeah, good to see you well enough to dive on the comments, Andrew. But yeah, Chris, I'll start off with that then. Cup draw away at Southampton. What are your thoughts on that, mate? I know you've put a few tweets out, but just try and verbalise that for me, please, mate.
Listen, it's not what anyone would have wanted. I think someone pointed out as well, we've got Plymouth away and is it Portsmouth away as well, just before it. So to go down there again is not ideal. You don't want it. If I'm going to find a silver lining, it'll be good to test ourselves against like a bottom-end Premier League team to kind of see how good we are. Whether you can class Southampton as a Prem team, I don't know, but they're playing in the Prem, so that's the only silver lining. We've had 8 draws in a row away, and I thought, I wonder if this goes any further back. So just before we come on, I've done a bit of research. We've had 11 out of 12 excluding replays away. That's stupid. The only home game we've been drawn in the last 3 seasons, including this one, is Fleetwood in the FA Cup 5th round. From the FA Cup onwards. The run dates back to United when we got knocked out of the cup. Like that, you can't even. I know Phil Bird said it's like 1 in 256 or something to have 8 in a row away. But what 11 and 12 is, I dread to think. I'm not saying the rigging the draws against us, but 11 out of 12, you've got to ask some questions at this point, surely.
Yeah. Probably not rigging it, but obviously you've just then responded to your tweet saying it's actually 11 to 12 away from home, which is what you were saying. UTC Tom on Twitter has responded to you saying it's a probability of 0.39% to happen what's happened to us. And they're just awful as well. I wouldn't mind it if it were Wigan away or Mansfield away, but Southampton, like we were saying on intro then, I'm as passionate as a lot of Burnley fans, but there's no chance I'm going all the way to Southampton for an FA Cup fourth round draw. And it's my birthday the day after as well. So sorry, I'm definitely not wasting my weekend travelling down to Southampton. New name does say Southampton aren't the best, to be fair, which is obviously what you did say, Chris, as well. Dominic Hall says Southampton away, what a nightmare of a draw. Suppose it's not City at least. I mean, Leo does say I'd rather have City away, at least it's within reasonable travelling distance, even if we do get spanked, I think I'll say to that. Is Andrew under the weather, says Scott Sullivan. Andrew's getting pelters and he's not even here. Bless Andrew. He does say, at least it's not City. Would like a decent team at home. We've not played for a while. Andrew in the chat as well. Claret Blue Army says, shame we didn't get bastards away. You know what? I was sat here watching it on the BBC iPlayer thing, and it's coming out, and Burnley are still in the hat, Blackburn is still in the hat, and I'm not nervous about it, but starting to get like anxious and excited about it, thinking, oh, it's going to be Blackburn again. Like then all the permutations in my head about whatever and stuff. Then thankfully they came out, because I don't particularly like playing them, if I'm being honest with you, even if it's beautiful after we win. But yeah, obviously nobody's happy with the draw. I bet Southampton fans are feeling pretty similar as well, but at least they're at home, to be fair. But let's move on. Chris and everyone in the chat, get your comments in, please. Let me know your thoughts on yesterday's game. I'll start with you, Chris. It's only you here. But I'll start with you, Chris, and then I'll give my thoughts. But yeah, what are your thoughts on yesterday's performance and result, please, mate?
It's a difficult one, because on the face of it, you'd say disappointing to go to extra time against Reading. But I thought the performance in general wasn't actually that bad, particularly first half. I think at half time we should have been out of sight.
Yeah.
Foster, in fairness, Foster played well, I thought, yesterday. But we'll come into individuals a bit later. And he missed a great chance. Koleosho misses a good one. McDermott has that last-ditch block that kind of stops it going in. And you're thinking on another day, we'd probably been 2-3 up out of sight. We created more chances. And I know there are League One teams, but that was also a bit of a second string for us. But we created a lot of chances, more so than we have at a lot of points this season. So I thought we did well. And, seeing second half, we weren't quite as good, I don't think, but we still controlled the game for large parts. Reading had a couple of sniffs, didn't they? And, I think probably the easy thing to forget is that without the goalkeeping howler, it wouldn't have gone to extra time, because they wouldn't have scored. So you're just looking at that and thinking, you've won in 90 minutes, but for the goalkeeping clanger, haven't you, really?
Yeah.
I think there's two ways of looking at it. Quality always shines through in the end usually, but I suppose you can be disappointed it's gone to extra time. But as someone said on Twitter, and it's a fair point, some of them lads needed another half an hour who haven't played for ages, and to get, it was either going to be 10 minutes in Tresor's legs or 40 minutes. So getting ready for his move, getting fit before he goes, and that.
Yeah, so, we'll obviously see what happens with Tresor over the next few days. Be interested to see what happens. Obviously, we'll get on to individuals as well, like you've already alluded to in a minute. Just want to give a quick shout out to Nong G Darko, who's just become a member of the channel. If you do want to become a YouTube channel member, the link is in the description of the video. You should be able to do it there. You get things such as early release of the pre-game show, and you'll get little crests, TurfCast badges and stuff next to your name and that. And it just helps support the channel. Eventually, when I get pull my finger out my arse and I finally create TurfCast merch, you will get money off that as well, but I'm just lazy and I haven't gotten around to doing it yet. But get your comments coming in. David Gill says, young boys look really good. New right back Son also looks quality. Yeah. Sui says, good for player Mins, but shows to me that we need a striker. At least 3 to 4 of those will start most games in the next 20, and we still struggle to bag. Mike says, Barres and McDermott showed there should be in the first squad, maybe not in the initial team, but certainly in the squad. I presume you mean by sort of subs being on the bench and stuff and the fringes and stuff, Mike, which to be fair, I do agree with. Scott Sullivan says, Lau Foss on the left side of attack. He was, mate. Again, we are going to talk about individuals in a bit, and Lyle is one of them. Andrew's in the chat. Every time I bring up one of Andrew's messages, I'll say Andrew's in the chat. We all know he's in the chat. But I'll just read it out from now, inshallah. He says, played okay. Foster's best game so far this season. The new lads were fantastic. We even got a Tresor cameo. Lee Greenwood says, great to see Ekdal come on. Rumour has it Tresor was playing, says Clarets 1882. Not only did he play, mate, he played very well, but a few people, again, we'll get on to members in a bit, will think he looked a little bit lazy. And Andrew also says, glad we got to see it now come on as well. Obviously, the stats are on your screen now. I put them up as Chris were talking. You'd expect Burnley to have more of the ball against a lower opposition team, to be fair, because we've done it for the majority of games in the Championship this season, but we pretty much dominated possession, just short of 60% possession. We turned that into 20 goal attempts. 7 of those were on target, 3 block shots, 8 corners compared to their 1, shots inside the box 12 compared to their 3. I think them stats do show that we were the better side, and I think even the eye test shows that we were the better side, to be fair. But yeah, I agree with Chris. I thought we were the better side. I thought we played well, but it's unfortunate that we can't score goals. I think I said in my fan reaction, we were creating more chances. Having said that, Bell Differ says XG still 0.21. I'm surprised at that. That's actually not actually on my screen there. But I'll have to dig that out. But yeah, I think that again, we were creating chances. We're creating a lot more chances than we usually do. But as a comment said earlier in the chat, I'll just quickly find it now. It shows more that we need a striker. Or you might have said that, Chris. I can't remember. But
I remember someone said it in the comments. I remember.
Yeah, just can't quickly see it. But yeah, I think I've been banging the drum for a while that we need a striker. There's been some games recently where I've been thinking maybe the wingers would help, because Fleming's coming more into that growing more into that role at the minute, and obviously he bagged 2 goals again yesterday. So obviously that's 3 in his last 2 now. So I do feel like he's getting better. But again, yesterday I think highlighted that maybe we do need a striker. But I was happy with the performance. I thought we played well. It's good to see certain players get minutes, like you said. Obviously Lyle got 120 minutes in his legs. Tresor came on and got some minutes. Obviously, Son played a lot of the game as well. So it's good for the fringe players to get some performances in there and get some minutes in the legs and things like that. So I was happy with it. And yeah, I thought we played quite well. And I'm happy to be in the next round. It's just a shame we've been rewarded with such an awful draw. But obviously, we've mentioned youngsters already. Barres and McDermott, Chris. Obviously, I know you could look at. I don't know if you cover the under-21s game or just watch them. I can't remember exactly what.
No, I'll cover them. Yeah, I wouldn't go to watch.
Fair enough. But so you'll know a bit more about them too. But they played quite well, didn't they? I thought. Yeah. And obviously, Barres. I'm pronouncing that wrong. I know I am. He even got the man of the match from the club as well on the Twitter poll. So good future ahead of them. And obviously, going back to Mike's comment earlier, I do feel like it is potentially time for them to be in and around the first team squad.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with that. It's difficult because we had the conversation in our chat the other day, didn't we, about who's come through in the last 20 years or something like that. I think we said, unless we're missing someone glaringly obvious, the only players I can think of that we've actually produced where we've got some benefit out of them ourselves have been J-Rod and McNeil, really. And some would argue that we didn't even produce McNeil because he come from United. So, the academy's not really been that fruitful for us. And, some will still argue that we didn't produce McDermott because he played professionally at Port Vale, but, he's come through the 21s and that and into our first team. So, the 2 good lads, Joe Barres in particular, I think he's got more maturity to his game than McDermott. McDermott, to me, is that eager to impress and he's combative. He gets around the pitch, he'll give silly fouls away. He's just not got that maturity to his game yet. He's a young lad. It'll come, and when it does come, he will be handy. I think Barres is slightly ahead of him now in terms of whether he'd get in the team. And I honestly believe if he hadn't have had the bad injury, he probably would have been in the team already, to be honest. He had, was it an ACL or something, kept him out for years. Yeah. And that's really hindered him. I think I said in our chat the other day, there was a game years ago. It was before Barres made his debut, even though I don't think anyone really knew about him. And there was about 10 to 15 scouts watching him at Leyland, just there for him. This kid is someone he was 16 at the time. This kid's special. I don't want to put too much pressure on him and we're going to expect he's the next Odegaard or something daft like that. But I honestly believe he'll have a career. Just the way he can come and dictate play, he's not shy of coming deep and getting on it, and he'll knock it out. He can bounce it first time. He can do everything. I do believe Barres, he should be around the squad, and we'll touch on someone who might be signing a little bit later on, and there'll be an argument to be had of now, do we need this person because we've got him? Or can you rely on an 18-year-old lad in a promotion battle, or do you need that bit of experience? It's a difficult one. So Parker can't win either way. Parker wants the experience. We know that's why he signed Egan, he signed Worrell, he brought Barnes back. Can you rely on Joe Barres for the rest of the season in a promotion battle when it gets intense? I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's ready for that kind of pressure yet. And I don't know whether I'd want to put him into that pressure yet. Same with McDermott, but them two will have futures at the club. I do firmly believe that.
Yeah, I think for me, I do agree. I would like to see him in and around the first team on the benches and stuff, as I did allude to earlier. I think the best route for them two now will be to spend the rest of this season out on loan, maybe somewhere like a League One. At the very least, has to be League One. You can't be sending them to League Two, or even a lower end Championship if somebody would want to do that. And then bring in someone else who, like you said, obviously we're going to get onto Shelvey in a bit. So leave all your angry comments about Shelvey for later in the chat, because we will be doing that later on. I just want to quickly bring this comment in. Claret Al says, I was looking at the graduate board in the fan zone the other day, and there's nothing on there since McNeil. And that obviously just goes back to what you were saying there, Chris. The academy hasn't been good enough, has it, in terms of producing talent? So it's good to see that these two lads are on the fringes.
We've produced quite a lot of good players, just not good players for us, like Bobby Thomas, Adam Phillips, Josh Benson, Michael Mellon has done well in lower leagues. Anthony Glennon. There was loads. Ali Koike, I think, played lower leagues. There was loads who we listed off, like Joe Mumbongo even got an appearance at one point. We listed loads of good players who, not good players, but players who we produced for the lower leagues. And, Josh Benson played in the Prem under Dyche, I think. So these lads have kind of been trusted, and they've never really made careers. We're good at producing players for the AFL and selling them on. And I guess for PSR, profit, sustainability and all that jazz, it's all right. But ultimately you want to produce them for yourself, though. You don't want to be like a breadline for Port Vale or for Barnsley, or, do you know what I mean? You want to produce your own players and get them into the first team. And that's, they need to start doing that. There's just not, I don't even think we've had anyone really come close. I can't remember anyone who's even just made 10 appearances and you thought, oh, he's all right, and he's just faded. I don't think we've had anything.
Bobby Thomas for me, I was surprised we let him go, if I'm honest with you. I think he's probably the closest one in recent years, Bobby Thomas, and he's doing all right at Coventry. We're obviously a Championship team.
Yeah, Lucas Jensen was another who they let go, and I know we've not really needed goalies. We're playing every week in the Championship now, so it's just, like I said, it's just getting them players to sort of produce for yourself. But as we said, we talked about it the other day, and it's difficult because of the catchment area we're in with United, City, Liverpool, Everton, and then people laugh and say, oh, but Blackburn have got a Cat 1 academy, we're on a Cat 2. So in terms of recruiting young players, it's difficult. They need to get back to Cat 1 status, and I know they're trying to do it for next season, but they need to get back to that level to just attract that better type quality of young player. Yeah,
it's funny you mentioned the Cat 1 and Cat 2 things. Obviously, we were Cat 1, then we lost that status. I'm not particularly sure why. You'll probably know more about that than me.
It was something to do with when they got it. When they got given Cat 1 status, it was in COVID or something, and they never actually got audited for them actually being Cat 1. They just got given it because of COVID. And then I think when they got audited or it got taken off them, it was something along them lines. It was something to do with COVID and someone not being able to check the facilities and all that jazz.
Fair enough. Simon Woodhouse makes a good point. Jimmy Dunn, completely forgot about him as well, to be fair. He did play a few games for us, we're quite excited about. Rodriguez is in the chat, not that one. George Rodriguez, he says, how are you feeling about the draw against Southampton? Feeling there could be a cup upset there. We did touch on that earlier on, mate. You must have just missed it. Both pretty disappointed with the draw because of how far away it is. But yeah, we could, if we put out a strong team, we could potentially cause an upset, but we'll just get drawn away to, I don't know, Brisbane Roar or something in the next round. That's the same things we're doing. But yeah, just going back to the Cat 1, Cat 2 thing, they are doing a big push to get back to it for next season. Pace mentioned it in the whatever it was where the cameras were there, not the fan meeting thing. And I actually saw him advertising for new jobs the other day on LinkedIn or somewhere, and it said like we're doing a big push for Cat 1 or Cat instead of being Cat 2. So fingers crossed we get that over the line and we can get that sorted and we can start producing more Baresses, as I'm going to copy your pronunciation of it because I've said it 3 different ways now and none of them were that. And McDermott as well, and them two can obviously get into the team. And there was somebody did mention the lad up at Dundee. He scored the other day as well against Rangers, so he might have a bright future ahead of him, but we shall see. There's been a few people that have had bright futures, but then just end up, as we said, playing for Port Vale, which, don't get me wrong, I'd love to play for Port Vale, but it's probably not the future that they want when they come into the academy. Going back to the game then, we've touched on it already, and I weren't going to mention this, but you touched on it already, so I do want to talk about it. The mistake from Hladky, it's a poor one in it, and I'm not going to sit here and berate him or anything. I just want to touch on it quickly because there has been some rumours recently, some with very little substance, by the way, from a kid who's clearly created a Twitter page and wants to just say he's got exclusives when he hasn't, saying that James Trafford will be leaving in this window. He won't be, hopefully. But Hladky came in yesterday, did a good job, to be fair, other than that mistake. But obviously, that's kind of what Muric were doing for us in the Premier League, wasn't it? It was playing well and then letting balls roll under his feet. But pretty much as I say that, Lee Greenwood says echoes of Muric. I mean, I'll give Hladky the benefit of the doubt. He's done it once for us, and Muric did it 4 or 5 times. But I just want to touch on him. Scott Parker obviously came out and backed him afterwards, as you'd expect a good man manager to do. What were your thoughts on Hladky's performance yesterday, mate, and obviously the mistake that he made?
Yeah, I thought he did all right. I think for a goalkeeper, if you never really remember they've played, you've probably done all right, or they've probably done all right. I seem to remember him coming for a few crosses. I think he made one good save, didn't he, in the second half, down low, and he punched a few crosses away, maybe. But he's not. They don't get tested that much. Even Trafford doesn't get tested that much in the Championship, does he? Most games. It's difficult to say. I think the best thing I could say about him is that I never even really noticed he was playing until he made that mistake. But the thing is, everyone's going to remember that mistake forever. Like even next time he comes in and someone has a shot from distance, it's like, oh God, is he going to spill this? Or like, I don't even know how he makes it. It's like basic for a goalkeeper. Rule 1 in the goalkeeping rule book is get your body behind the shot. And he doesn't get anything behind it. Like goes through his hands, then his legs, and you're thinking like, oh, it's just. I don't know if anyone remembers the DVD David Seaman's Jeepers Keepers from going back years ago. It'd have been on that. It was that bad. I can't remember seeing many worse. Not since Muric sport anyway.
It were poor, but I think I'm showing that I'm quite a few years considerably older than you because I was alluding to Nick Hancock's Football Nightmares yesterday, and that were on VHS, isn't it? So, yeah, there you go. But I do think it will be on something like that. So he says Hladky dropped a few clangers for Ipswich in their promotion season, but other than that, he's usually solid and good distribution. I mean, I didn't see much of him in that year, to be fair, but if that is the case, then he is just another Muric, to be fair, because Muric plays well, then drops clangers. Andrew says, shame for Hladky, but he's obviously not going to be our number 1. Lee Dane says, unless a club comes in with a £13 million bid, I presume that's meant to say for Trafford, he's going nowhere. We paid $19 million, and there's no way he's going for less than 30. He's not going anywhere in this window, mate. Chris's best mate, Bob Devine, says, it's a shame the Hladky thing happened. He is quality, and things like this happen to the best of them. He's also played, once all season. It's not that big of a deal. I think in the end, mate, you are right there, but it's not a big deal.
I think that's a big thing as well. For someone to come in, if he was an outfielder and he came in once in a season, everyone would say, oh, he's not played. Say Foster missed a one-on-one after he'd not played all season. Everyone would say, oh, but he's not played. It's difficult. So I suppose it's the same for a goalie when you think of it like that.
Yeah, completely agree. I think, like I said, Bob's absolutely spot on. It does at the end of the day. It doesn't matter because we won the match. If we'd have lost the match on penalties, for example, it would have been a bigger deal from that. To be fair, Jordan Rushworth, I think that's the first time I've seen you here on the lives, Jordan. I always like to give you a friendly bit of banter on Twitter. It's good to see you in the lives. He says, at least our number 2 is the one doing stuff like that, and not like Leeds, whose number 1 does it every week. Yeah, fair point. I'm surprised that he's still there, to be fair. But yeah, we'll move on. Obviously, not Andrew, where's he gone? Mike put in the chat, said, Hladky did that on purpose to get Tresor some extra minutes. And obviously, Tresor came on yesterday and he was quite debated heavily on Twitter, his performance, and on Facebook as well. Some people saying he played very, very well. Some people saying he was lazy and disinterested. I personally think it's a mix of both, but I don't necessarily think it's him being lazy or disinterested. Maybe that's just his demeanour. Maybe that does mean he is disinterested in being at Burnley Football Club. Again, you'll have to ask him. I'm not really sure. But, Chris, what were your thoughts on Tresor's performance yesterday?
I agree with you. I think I'm a mix of I like the mix. I sit like I've got a foot in both camps. I can't quite like work out which way I kind of stand with him. He's just ultimately he produces two moments that help you win the game. And when he come on, he had some nice touches. He laid some nice passes off, and he did look dangerous. But and it's a massive but. His application, I did think, was terrible. Like just the jogging about. Like, he was even at one point late on. He was chasing to keep a ball in, and he was literally jogging after it. And I'm thinking, like, Mike, what are you doing? Just start sprinting. You're playing a game of football here. Like, you're not in five-a-side at training or. It's just the application for me. And I think I said it on Twitter, and I think you get away with it against Reading in League One, who've played 90 minutes, and you come on against tired legs. I think you get away with it. But if he starts on Friday night against Sunderland and you do that, you're not going to get away with it. Like, would I trust him to track a fullback for 90 minutes? I mean, he could never play 90 minutes, but would I trust him to track a fullback? I don't think I would. But the flip side of the argument is, do you carry, because he is going to be a passenger for most of the game. Do you carry a passenger for 60 minutes? Let's say you can play 75 minutes. Do you carry a passenger for 60, 65 minutes in the hope that he turns up for 10, 15 and does something that wins you a game? Because one goal will probably win you most games. It's a really difficult one. I personally don't think you can carry a passenger in the Championship for 60 minutes. We've seen it this season, and we've come off games and thought, God, he was a passenger in. Yeah, I don't know. Not for me. I'm really undecided on it. I can't kind of jump either way. I wouldn't play him on Friday night personally.
I mean,
I'd have him on the bench and maybe bring him on. But I don't see any way in which he could start a game. And I'm not even bothered. I saw some... Sorry, Joe. I'm going to say, like...
No, go on. I'll prefer it when you're doing that.
Like, I can't watch a player, like, playing like that for Burnley Football Club. Like, I just want to see some effort. I don't want to just see effort. Like, I want effort and quality. Like, you want both. I want what's best. But I don't think you can have just one or the other. For me, I think you've got to kind of bring both to the table. At least with Koleosho, like, I know sometimes he does look a bit thin and he's not doing anything in the final third, but he will run a bit and he'll sprint back if he needs to. I don't know with Tresor for me.
It's interesting you mentioned Koleosho, because there was a tweet that was put out today. The person who tweeted it will remain nameless, because I'm going to give the tweet a bit of stick, but I kind of agree with it at the same time. Like, Tresor did more yesterday than Koleosho has done since that Leeds goal. And I'm not bashing Koleosho. I appreciate he's still very, very young. And, he has shown signs of being a great player as Koleosho, or will be a great player. But Tresor came on yesterday, obviously got the assist. Just a quick screenshot there from the assist. Obviously, he's made the run down the line at this stage. And then, obviously, I think the difference with Tresor here compared to Koleosho is Koleosho in that position, I think, just doesn't look up and smashes it across goal. Yeah. Tresor has looked up. He's seen that Fleming, obviously number 19 on the penalty spot on your screen now, he's seen that he's peeled and he's passed it directly to him. And that's why he's got the assist. I completely agree with you, Chris. I think he's got so much more quality than anybody on that pitch yesterday in terms of technical ability. But I don't know, like, he's not going to be tracking fullbacks. And I think for 90 minutes, you need that unless you stick him up front. And obviously, you're not going to do that. Or because even if you stick him in one of the wide forward positions, you still need them players to come back. I think Bob made a good point earlier. Said it would be interesting to see if Tresor involved with the Sunderland matchday squad. I think that will tell us where Parker's head is with him. I think for me, I'm not even sure if he's still going to be a Burnley player at this stage. Like, I don't even understand what's going on with him. So would you have him involved against Sunderland or would you have him maybe on the bench?
I'd have him on the bench because ultimately, like, it's a game of football that you think we need to win. If you're looking at that game thinking if we can win that and you put I don't know, we put 4 or 5 points between us and Sunderland if we won on Friday, something like that. Are they a point behind us, 2 points behind?
2 points behind us. If they win, they go a point above us.
If you're thinking like we can put 5 between you, 5 points for Sunderland it's going to be difficult for Sunderland to win 2 more games than us in less than half a season. If we're being truthful, it's going to be difficult. So if you put 5 points between you and Sunderland and think, right, put you out the way, we can forget about you for the time being, and we've only got to worry about 2 more teams. Do I trust Tresor? Because it's going to be... listen, this game Friday is going to be blood and thunder. Like, both teams want to win. Do you put Mike Tresor into battle? You know, Roy Keane, would you go to war with Mike Tresor? No. I just don't think it's a game for Mike Tresor to start. I'm not saying if it's 0-0 with 15 minutes to go and you think, right, make yourself hero, put him on, and you probably get away with it a bit more for 15 minutes. I don't know. I can't really get behind it. I think the lack of effort was, and I know people say, was he match fit? And that's the question. Do the pros outweigh the cons? Luckily, like, it's above our pay grade. We get paid enough to like know the answer to that question. For me, though, I just think Parker looks for players he can trust. That's why Anthony plays every week, because although people don't like him, you can trust him. You know he's going to turn up and he'll like put a shift in. And listen, is he a £50 million winger? Of course he's not. Like, is he as good quality wise as Tresor? Of course he's not. But he's not cost anywhere near that money, so you can't kind of expect it. But he will turn up, and you know what you're going to get from him week in, week out. Do you know it? Honestly, a genuine question to anyone, like, do you know what you're going to get from Mike Tresor if he starts on Friday night? You don't. No one has a clue. You know, is he even going to turn up for training on Monday? Like, who knows what you're going to get with Mike Tresor? It's just the unpredictability of him. For me, I just don't see what the future holds for him personally.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's completely up in the air. I have no idea whether he's even still going to be a Burnley player tomorrow, never mind play against Sunderland. So it's going to be interesting what the next few days hold in terms of Mike Tresor. I mean, for me, I'd love to see him as part of the team. I'd love to see him applying himself and wanting to be part of this Burnley squad. Obviously, you see all this talk about Sunderland signing Lefebvre. I think Tresor can be just as impactful in our squad as what he can be in their squad. It's going to be interesting to see him against us on... It's Friday night, isn't it? Against Sunderland on Friday night. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that one. But whether he can be that guy, if he doesn't want to be here, then just get rid of him at the end of the day. Keep your comments coming in. Rick Williams says, really excited if we can get him going. He's clearly very talented. However, there's shades of Amdouni in terms of being played before he leaves. Mike says, to be fair, he was brought in expecting to be an Premier League starter, first team on the team sheet, etc. Then the guy who brings him in sells him the dream, buggers off, and now no wonder he's annoyed with BSC. To be fair, it's not Burnley's fault that company left. And I don't think Mike took the opportunities last season when he had them. Not Mike. Yeah, Mike. Because I'm talking to Mike. I don't think Mike Tresor had the opportunities last season when it was awful away at Brentford, put it that way.
And ultimately, Joe, when he signed his 5-year contract, when they put that paper on the table in front of him and he signed his 5-year contract, which he was more than happy to sign at the time. Yeah, exactly. He signed a contract to Burnley Football Club. Like, you didn't sign it to Vincent Kompany. Every single player who signed last summer knew you've just signed a contract to Burnley Football Club. We've just come out of the Championship. So if you knew that there was a chance we could go down. So you can't complain now that we're in the Championship. To me, like, I don't think anyone was sold a dream per se. Like, the only person who was sold a dream was Parker in the summer. To me,
yeah. Lee Greenwood says he has the talent, but he's not prepared to do the hard graft. We need somebody who will put a shift in. Jordan says Corey Orshaw's work rate off the ball is usually as good as his final third play. Is frustrating. If you could combine Tresor and him into one player, that'd be great. Andrew says, nothing I've seen of Mike Tresor shows me that I want him in a starting 11 on Friday, but he's obviously got good talent and should be able to come off the bench if he can be asked. Paul Johnson says, do we need wingers to put a shift in? Benson never did, and everyone loved him. And if Tresor keeps creating goals for others and starts scoring a few, thought we'll love him too. I think that's probably a good point, to be fair.
I think it is a good point. Sui's comment underneath kind of like is the counter argument to that. Yeah. Like, I think you do need someone to put a bit of a shift in against Sunderland, Sheffield, Leeds, but against Oxford, we're not playing Oxford anymore, are we?
Not now, we're playing bloody
Southampton. They put like Portsmouth, Plymouth, then you probably would get away with playing Tresor.
Yeah.
But is he going to want to play at Portsmouth and Plymouth?
No.
Hello.
Going to be interesting. But again, I think Parker's system's a little bit different to companies as well. So I think that's probably why everybody loved Benson so much last year, to be fair. Yeah, spot on, Chris says. Dom, fair point, says Mike. Always Clarets says, didn't he flip-flop about coming in the first place? He didn't. There's rumours out there as well. I do quickly want to stick with the Mike Tresor thing. I think you've got company with the dog there, Chris.
Yes.
There's been a lot of uproar on Twitter about his reaction to the third goal. Are you too bothered about that? And I'm personally not off. Like, he's made a good pass, a decent pass, that's then resulted into a goal. Obviously, he got an assist for the first one. He got the assist or pre-assist, whatever you want to call it, for the second one. Sorry, the first Fleming one and the second Fleming one. And then he's just not really celebrated that much, and he's not made a run after he's passed it. I mean, against Reading in the Cup, I'm not overly bothered about it. But again, I guess that goes back to the point of you saying, like, yeah, he's all right in these games, but Sunderland at home, you can't really be doing that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm overly bothered about his reaction. It's just, even the reaction of the whole team was a bit subdued, because I think they almost felt a bit embarrassed that it had gone to extra time, to be honest with you. You know, Fleming's reaction to his third goal was a bit like, oh, it's game over now. I don't know. It's not amazing, is it, to see him like keep out the team celebration and just he was just totally disinterested. It's probably not the best to see. I wouldn't like cry too much about it, but it's probably not the best thing to see. Honestly, ultimately, like, I'm not really bothered. If he doesn't want to celebrate, that's fine. It's up to him. I don't really care. If he comes on Friday night and gets the winner, he can walk back to halfway for me. I'm not bothered. It's just, he just don't want to be here, principally, I think. I think that's glaringly obvious, but it's becoming a bit of a power struggle now, isn't it? It's who gets what they want. Does Pace get what he wants and you stay and play, or do you get what you want and you go and leave? It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think obviously the best thing for everyone would just be if we got the money back. But obviously it doesn't work like that. Bell Dipper says he's just stealing away just Mike Tresor. Get rid of him. I'd rather have Luca Collier-Shaw running his heart out. Sui says the guy's played in the Champions League for a good few seasons. I imagine he's not that fussed about a third goal to Reading. Barres didn't celebrate either, but he's not getting berated. Dominic Hall says, I really do wonder what players like Barnes and Brown will think about Tresor. I don't think they're that impressed, to be honest. I used to always think that, but then every now and then some training pictures come out of Mike Tresor and he seems to be well liked. Obviously, I know the club will choose the pictures carefully. They're not stupid. But there's always players around him, and like Foster and Ramsey and those sort of lads, and they always seem to be having fun with him. One thing, I wasn't there yesterday, I'll be honest. I didn't go down for it. I had a children's party to attend to, which was absolutely fantastic. But obviously, all this talk about the celebrations, is anybody in the chat that knows? Obviously, because we did the Ray thing at the end of it. A Reading fan took exception to that on Twitter, which I always do find delicious. Did Tresor get involved in that, or had he already left off by then? Do you know, Chris? Had he already gone down the tunnel, or was he involved in the celebrations at the end?
I turned it off at full time. Got a baby to attend to.
Yeah, fair enough. I was home by then, but I think I just went out the room. If I'm being honest with you, got to do the 60-second review pretty much straight away, mate.
I can't imagine that they'd let him just walk off. I'd be surprised if he went off.
There you go. Sui says, I've been told. ITK Sui says, I've been told he clapped the fans. Mike said, I saw something saying he did get involved. To be fair, Fleming didn't overly celebrate it. Andrew's internet's behind. He's talking about something else as usual. But there's two comments there from two people. Obviously, I've kept their ear to the ground more on that subject than I have, and it's good to see. So to be fair, I don't know. We'll see what happens over the next few days. The answer will be over the next few days how much more is involved and whether he wants to be here or not, and the application that he gives. If he's obviously gone by noon tomorrow, then I think we all have our answer. Yeah. Moving on then, Lyle Foster. I want your opinions on his performance, because I watched the match yesterday, and let's remember, Lyle Foster is a striker. And Lyle Foster has recently not been playing as a striker. Obviously, he's had trouble with injuries recently, which has meant that Fleming has been playing in the 9. And then when Foster has been coming on, for some reason, Parker hasn't been playing him in the 9 and Fleming in the 10. He's been keeping them. So sometimes Foster's come on in the 10. Sometimes he's gone left forward, and that's where he played yesterday. He played left forward, and I thought he played quite well. I was very surprised to see some people on Twitter were berating him and complaining about him. I do sometimes think some people just want to mourn, so they'll mourn for the sake of it. But I was impressed with Foster yesterday. I think that could be an option because, like we've alluded to already, Coley Orshaw hasn't been playing great this season, so Foster as left wide forward could be an option in some games. And then bringing on Coley Orshaw against tired legs later in the game could be an option. But I thought Lyle was absolutely brilliant yesterday. Chris, what were your thoughts on Foster's performance yesterday?
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was, I think someone said in the chat earlier, it was probably his best performance this season, and it's probably true. I can't think of many, if any, other great performances Foster's had since his Premier League injury. Dog's called Bruno. Luckily, it's not Hannibal. But
yeah, just people listening to the podcast are wondering why Chris has answered his dog's name. Bob Devine, Chris's best friend, has said, "Please tell me dog's Chris is called Hannibal."
No, he's
what do you say, Bruno? After Fernandez, I imagine.
Yeah, he's saying hello now. He's going to go back to his mum. But yeah,
this is pretty much the exact same dog as that, Eric, but he's downstairs in a lighter brown. But anyway, enough of the dog chat.
I think, Foster did well. He's one of them players who you kind of never quite know what you're going to get from him. He could turn up one week with produce an absolute stinker, and the next week you think, oh, he's the second coming of Ronaldo. We've just not seen any of them performances. Ironically, Foster's best performances for Burnley have actually come in the Prem. Like he's dropped down a level.
Fantastic that game.
I think we sat on here in the summer and thought, I'm excited to see how Foster's going to take to the new system, and playing back in the Championship. But he's just not really done anything. He probably suits that left side position quite well because whether it's been Sarmiento, Hannibal, neither of them are really ones for sticking out on that left hand side. So that it's positional flexibility where he can come inside and get close to Fleming because Fleming's isolated a lot of the time anyway. You need someone close to him. I think he did well. We'll come on to man of the matches later. He wouldn't have been who I gave man of the match, but he was my second pick. I think he did well. Yeah. I think best performance this season.
Simon Harvey says Foster was brilliant yesterday. Mike says I quite like Foster in that left forward role. I agree, mate. I've just alluded to that. I think that could be something we start doing. If we're not going to put him in the number 9 and Fleming in the 10, I still want to see that. We haven't been able to see that this season. Parker, for whatever reason, is so against doing that. But if Lyle has to play left forward to get in the team, then I would like to see Lyle in the team. So I do feel like that position is something that we've struggled with this season. I think Anthony's done all right on the right-hand side, but I think, some people will disagree with that. I think a lot of people will, to be fair, but I think he's been relatively consistent. Whereas on the left, we'll sometimes get someone who has a great performance and then they just go missing the week after. So it's going to be interesting to see what goes on there. Lee Greenwood says, Foster looked like he's almost there. If he gets a few starts, I think he'll be back to his best. Claret Owl says VK kept playing him on the wing too. David Holgate says we have to get Foster and Fleming in that starting lineup somehow. Andrew does say, though, worrying that Foster's best game came against League One opponents, though. Andrew's in the chat, says Sui. But he was brilliant yesterday, says Andrew, who is in the chat. Sui does say, I'm not keen on him being on the left, but nothing to lose. Not like Coley Orshaw was setting the world alight. I agree with that. What does this say? Claret Owl says, have we heard anything on how long Hannibal's ban was? 3 games, mate. Yeah, Scott does answer you there. And Scott also does says, Foster looks much better when he doesn't have his back to goal. Completely agree, mate. And that's why I feel like the Premier League suited him more, because defences were higher against us because we weren't a threat to these teams. That's why he had a brilliant performance away at Villa last year, which to me is probably his best performance in a Burnley shirt. Obviously, these shows normally last about an hour. But obviously, with it being the FA Cup, we're thinking it's not going to be that long. However, what we are going to do for the next 15, 20 minutes, or probably will get past an hour to be fair, is chat about some of the transfer rumours as well. But before we do that, Chris has just alluded to man of the match. So we'll get into it. Everybody get your comments in. Let me know who your man of the match was for yesterday's game against Reading. Obviously, as Burnley won 3-1 down at the Select Car Leasing Stadium. But Chris, you've already said it's not Lyle, but he was second. So who was your man of the match?
Joe Barres, by quite a way, I would say. I think McDermott did all right Foster was good, but I don't think anyone come close to Barres. To go to, and we played a League One side. I understand that, but he's just an 18-year-old lad. He's played no men's, like senior men's football before, other than one like 10-minute appearance, I think, in the cup against, was it Crawley or something like that. Like to go in there and produce that performance, to be so competent on the ball, he didn't look out of place one single bit. Like if he'd have had 24 on his back and Josh Cullen and no one could see faces, you'd have thought it was Josh Cullen. Like that's the biggest compliment I can give to him. You've got to be an 18-year-old lad, come into a first team setting, and to one, have the like bottle to go in there and get on the ball and dictate a game is one thing, but two, for your teammates to trust you and give you that ball in tight areas and know you'll retain it, know you'll bounce it out. Like that says so much about him. Like for me, like he's got a massive, massive future. Like I do believe he's that good. I for an 18-year-old lad to go in and produce that performance, like I don't care who it's against. Like he's got a big future.
Yeah, just looking at his Wikipedia page here. If you want to feel old, he was born in 2006, so he completely missed the Japan Korea World Cup, and obviously I have great memories of that. 2006 one was in Germany, wasn't it, if I remember rightly? And he was just born for that one. So yeah, that does make me feel old, but I completely agree. He's my man of the match as well. I think he was fantastic yesterday. I wouldn't say head and shoulders above the rest. If he was like a 28-year-old man, I don't know if I'd be giving it in. But obviously, with all the circumstances surrounding it, and you look at like the points that you just made there, it's like the first men's football game he's ever started as in a professional capacity. Then it's fantastic to see him perform that well, and I completely agree. He's like a someone said it yesterday on Twitter. I can't remember who it was. Apologies if you're in the chat. But he said it's like having a mini Cullen. And obviously you just alluded to that then. If you couldn't see faces, you would think it was him. So yeah, Barres for me as well. So that's the full house because there's only the two of us today. Bob Devine does say Barres. Foster says Rick Williams. Foster says Chris Fairburn. Sui says Tresor. John Lammers. He says Fleming. Andrew's in the chat. He says the fans who went there in that weather. Obviously, Andrew's got to get a weather in there. Big John Joe, not quite yet, mate. We'll move on to that in a minute. Worrell had a good game, says Claret Al. Yes, the supporters that made the trip, says John. Worrell was a beast, says Matt. Haladki says Lee Greenwood. Andrew is in the chat, and he is saying that Barres was man of the match for him as well. Excellent debut by Son as well. Yeah, I tell you what, we're going to move on. I do want to quickly touch on Son. Brilliant, weren't he, Chris? And I do think if we needed him, he probably won't displace Connor Roberts anytime soon because, like I said on my fan reaction yesterday, he's probably the most underrated Burnley player there is. But I think if we needed him to step up into the first team tomorrow or Friday, I think he's capable of doing that. I think he showed yesterday that he's a good footballer and we've got a good player there.
Yeah, definitely. He did really well. Again, another one it's against Reading. Like I completely understand that, but to throw him in and like on debut and produce that performance was good. He looks good on the ball. He can get up and down. He's got like endless energy. He found some end product as well in the final third, first half. Again, like you say, he's not going to push Roberts out this season, but he was never brought in with that in mind, was he? I think he was brought in with the fact that Roberts is probably going to leave in the summer. Yeah. And if you're then desperate to go out and get someone in summer, you're going to end up spending more money and then you've got to find someone, etc. So, yeah, great. You know, it's good to get a look at him. Be decent to see him get a look in a better kind of game. But ultimately, like behind Roberts, we have nothing other than like Humphreys, really, because Sambo's never going to play. So.
Yeah, I have obviously Roberts picked up a bit of an injury earlier in the season, didn't he? And he missed a few games and the defence did look a little bit disjointed. I think I have more confidence now that we have good backup in Son. I thought he played well yesterday. Rick Williams says, excellent debut. Claret Al says, yes, Son looked class. Sui says he can play modified too. Can Son does so for Peru. Andrew says, Son was really good. Was excited to see him play and I wasn't disappointed. And Matt... I missed the comment. Matt says, how empty was their stadium, by the way? To be fair, mate, I'm not going to sit here and bash stadium. It was pretty empty, but it's the FA Cup third round. I don't think ours would have been much better, to be fair, if it was at home. John Loma says, Foster did have a few good shots on goal and got one. Sweet. Yes, thank you for that, mate. Right. Transfer rumours, Chris. Obviously... You actually did a good story on Football League World about John Joe Shelvey. You had seen him down at heard reports of him being down at Goalthorpe, should I say. And obviously, looking like, well, Scott Parker has now confirmed that he's been training with us. So he's definitely been down at Goalthorpe. He's definitely training for us. What are your thoughts on that one? It's looking like, I think you said it in the WhatsApp group earlier today or yesterday. It's looking like a John Egan situation where he comes in, trains with us for a few weeks. We have a look at him, we get him up to fitness, and then we decide to sign him on if we do. What are your thoughts on him if we do get him over the line?
Yeah, I think that's what it'll be. I think, like, I remember saying to you at the time that Egan was training, and that it was like, I think it was about 6 to 8 weeks before it was he signed, wasn't it, that he was training. So it was a really long period of time. I'd expect something similar maybe with Shelvey, but perhaps not. It won't be 6 to 8 weeks, so we don't have that luxury now. But I do think it'll be maybe another week or so before you hear anything, because you need to know if he's fit. He hasn't played since the end of October in Turkey, so he's got zero match fitness at all. Whether he can play with the under-21s, I think even to play with them, you have to be signed on to a capacity, I think. Unless, I know, because he's English, I don't know how it works, but I remember with do you remember Deji Satona? He couldn't play as a trialist because he'd come from abroad. I don't know how it works, but we've got time to sign him. He's a free agent, so it doesn't matter. You could sign him in February if you wanted to, but obviously you don't have 8 weeks to judge it. If you sign him in March, it's lost effect. He's not going to sign a contract for 2 months, so it's going to have to be sort of in the next month, I think. But I think he brings something different. His passing range is excellent. We've all seen him play football down the years. You don't play for Liverpool if you're no good at football, so he obviously is a good player. He's won the championship before. As I touched on earlier, Parker likes to bring players in with experience. Worrell, Egan, Barnes, he's brought all three of them in for very little money, so he wants experience in that dressing room. Shelvey brings it. And ultimately, behind Cullen and Laurent in them two holding spots, which we've established Brownhill isn't really like best at doing, we've got nothing. Masengo's gone, and he won't ever come back, I don't think. Do you trust Joe Barres and Tommy McDermott for promotion running? I don't think Parker will, personally. So I fully expect to see Shelvey sign at some point. When that is, I don't know, but I do expect Shelvey will sign. And he's got quality. Like, people forget, like, he's had a bad spell in Turkey, all right. Like, he's not done much, but John Joe Shelvey's still a quality option to bring off the bench, I think. And Laurent can't play 3 games in a week either, we've established. So I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, Dominic Hall says, I think Shelvey will be a class option to bring on from the bench when we need a goal to break a defence. Always Claret, which is Andrew, who's in the chat, says, if his announcement video isn't Harry Potter related, I'll be gutted. It has to be. Unless he refuses to do the acting for it, it has to be that. I've obviously, Sui says, I've already had this one on screen, but he says, as he's a free agent, you can sign him outside. Obviously, Andrew did that. Sorry, Chris did touch on that. Mike says, I've seen quite a few saying, why let Masengo go and bring in Shelvey? If Masengo wants first team football and Shelvey's okay with being backup player, then it makes sense. Yeah, I think as Chris alluded to, I'm not sure we'll see Masengo in a Burnley shirt now, to be honest with you. I think that loan move does have an option on it that Auxerre could trigger if they wanted to come the end of that loan. David Holgate says, not many rumours of outgoings, thankfully. Lee Greenwell says, should we really be looking to offload Ekdal? I mean, we'll get onto that one in a minute, mate. I'll just give my tuppence on the Shelvey thing. I think if it was 5 years ago, I'd be buzzing with it. Now, I'm a bit like, meh, I don't mind it. I'm not getting excited by it. If he has that passing range still, and you shouldn't lose it, then I think he's going to be good to bring off the bench, depending on what his wages are. Obviously, I think with him having a poor time of it in Turkey recently, his wages might be quite low. However, you can also look at the fact that he's played for Liverpool and Newcastle, and he could be on quite a bit. But I guess we'll have to see. I know Pace and that won't put. I would hope they wouldn't put the danger of the club, the club in danger. But I'm sort of like on the fence with it. I agree. He might be good to bring in. Because when Laurent isn't playing and then we have to chop and change that midfield, and as Chris alluded to, then drop a Brownhill deeper, and then you lose Brownhill in that 10. The midfield looks completely disjointed. Look at that Stoke game, for example, at home. Loren, I don't think, started in that one, and that's the one where we did look quite poor recently. It's the game over the Christmas period where we were absolutely awful. Middlesbrough was a 0-0 as well, but we weren't bad in that one, and that was a good result up at Middlesbrough. But that one against Stoke was absolutely awful. And I feel like having somebody like Shelvey to come in for Loren would actually be decent backup. But I think that's the only way that I'm happy with that signing, if he's coming in for backup, to be fair. But I'm not against it. I think it's a decent signing as backup, as I've said. But if he's coming in to displace Cullen, then yeah, I think we'll always get pissed off with it. But Parker's not stupid, so he's not going to be coming in to displace Cullen, to be fair. Obviously, as I've mentioned already, or mentioned through some comments in the chat, there are some comments and rumours that Ekdal and Delcroix will potentially be leaving the club. This is from Alan Nixon, so some people will be like, oh, F Nixon, but I don't think he's as bad as people make out, to be fair, even if he has got me blocked on Twitter. It says, Burnley will let centre-backs Ekdal and Delcroix leave the club this January. The club are trying to trim the squad and are currently well-stacked in this area. I added the well-stacked. He put something a bit more old money and a bit more boring. But I completely agree with it. I feel we have got a lot of players in there. None of these two are going to displace Egan Riley and Esteve anytime soon. And if they are leaving with just a loan, especially in Ekdal's case, then I'm not really against it. What I will say is I think Delcroix wouldn't be that bad. I know some people look at how poor he was in the Championship last season. In the Premier League last season. But I think if you put him in this Championship team, I don't think he'd be that bad. I think he'd be okay. And that's what a lot of people are judging Ekdal on, his time in the Championship with Burnley when he did play well. But he did get outpaced quite a lot as well. That were Ekdal's problem. He had no pace whatsoever. But Chris, your thoughts on the rumours that Ekdal and Delcroix are likely to be leaving Burnley this window, please, mate?
I'm glad you've said that, because I was about to drop a controversial opinion and now I don't feel quite as bad for dropping this opinion. I think, listen, I'm opening myself up here because I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this, but I would keep Hannes Delcroix and play him at left back before playing Lucas Pires ever again. I said it from game one at Luton. I don't like Pires. I think he's a really poor technical player.
Look at that, right on cue.
As if by magic. Like, I would play Hannes Delcroix at left back before Lucas Pires. And he's, the balance of our team is better with Humphreys, who's a centre back, at left back. And, if you play Delcroix, who's a centre back, left footed as well, at left back, I just kind of wonder, will we keep that balance of the team that we lose when Pires comes in? Pires can't defend. He's really, people got blinded by them 2 assists he got at Luton on the other day. He's poor going forward. He's just I don't know who signed him, but they should be sacked. He's such a bad footballer. I would keep Delcroix over Pires any day of the week and twice on Sundays. I thought it was controversial, but maybe it's not.
Yeah, I think now you're the first person to say it out loud. I think people might start tweeting it. But David Holgate says Pires defending at left back is the worst I've seen since Graham Branch.
I don't remember Graham Branch. I'm too young to truly remember watching Graham Branch play football, but I can fully believe that that's true.
Always Claret Andrews in the chat. He says, Ekdal I'd like to keep. Delcroix should never have been signed in the first place. Again, I think, Andrew, you're going off the Premier League. I do think he was out of his depth in the Premier, if I'm honest with you. But having said that, I feel like our team was all out of his depth, to be fair. And it was the company system. I don't think that helped. Lee Greenwood says, I'm okay with a loan for Ekdal, but I don't see us getting good value in a permanent transfer. John says, yeah, these guys know their bloody no. Cheers, TurfCast. Cheers, John. Love it, mate. That said, that's Humphrey's shirt now, to be fair. Yeah, completely agree. Mike says, wasn't Perez one of Company's last signings? Maybe. Sui says, Perez is the least Brazilian player I've ever seen, and I've seen Vitinho. At least he tried. I think Vitinho would have been class in the Championship, mate. I mean, he was, but I think when he started in that Burnley side in the Championship winning season, he started slowly, but eventually came quite good, and I thought he was relatively okay in the Prem. I'll play my dead cat before putting Perez anywhere near a football pitch. Probably shouldn't have put that one on screen. Cheers, Clarets 1882. Chris, you've never lived not seeing Graham Branch. Graham Branch was a legend, to be fair. Rick Williams says, in Perez defence, he's a young lad coming into a new country, moving from Brazil to Spain, although not fit to lace Di Branchio's boots. Scott O'Sullivan says, Graham Branch was an all-rounder. He even played in goal. He was an all-rounder, was Branch. He was more of a... He's like the Freddie Flintoff of football, but I always seem to remember Graham Branch playing in midfield, and I remember him once playing at right back, played at left back quite a lot as well. Some harsh comments on Perez, but I kind of get it. I think defensively he's not great. I think if I were going to have Perez, I'd have him sort of like as a left winger, but obviously we don't really have that position in our side anymore. I wouldn't have him as a left forward, put it that way. But I think he is awful at defending, to be fair. But yeah, I do agree with the comment that it's probably Bashir Humphries' shirt now, to be fair. And David Holgate says, Humphries played his best football at left back in his previous loan before us, from what I've heard. So I don't think he's new to that position. I think it's kind of like a Ben Mee, where he's starting out at left back and then probably will eventually move into centre back. But yeah, I like Humphries. And Humphries, to be fair, when I first saw Perez and when I first saw Humphries, I did think Perez was the better of the two, because Perez was brilliant in, like you already said, in that game at Luton on the opening day. And Humphries did look a little bit disjointed in some of his first games. I can't remember when he first played. But yeah, I think now it's definitely Humphries. Definitely Humphries. Dominic Hall says, Sunderland would rip us a new one if Perez starters. Richard Taylor says, lay off Perez, guys. He plays some cracking passes at times. He will improve. Claret Al says, Brancho versus Leon Court. Brancho all day, mate. Leon Court had lead in his boots. Lee Greenwood says, Humphries is absolutely quality. I think that's it, though, Chris, for rumours. I don't think there's much out there at the minute. I mean, you've obviously got some good contacts and stuff. Is there anything that I may have missed that you're aware of?
Just bits of hearsay, like nothing. I don't think there's anything like I could say that's not already out there. There's, obviously the likes of Whittaker, and I think they'll go back in for him, or may have been back in, but that's dependent on Plymouth budging on the loan offer. So they're not going to sell him. They're not going to loan him to Burnley mid-season. So unless Burnley can find some magic 10, 15 million up from somewhere, I struggle to see how he'll sign. I think the only other one I heard that was possible, and I have heard that he was at Gawthorpe the other day, was Nathan Teller, but like I said, it's not come from me.
Andrew says Teller was in the away end yesterday. Mike says Teller has been spotted in K. What's K2s? I have no idea. Is that something that's probably showing your age now, Mike? Going back to Whittaker, Whittaker's value probably went up yesterday. I mean, he's had a poor season compared to his standards, compared to last season. Just going back to the Nathan Teller stuff, obviously that's bollocks. There's no chance that Nathan Teller's... But it was funny because I think you put it in the group, didn't you, saying, where's all this Teller stuff come from? Like, it's obviously clearly just dads on Facebook and Clarets mad making stuff up. But in fact, yeah, that's the point. Phil Wilcock, who's only just joined, where have you been, mate? You're an hour late. Schlupp interest. I've seen that Blackburn were looking at Schlupp, but I have seen something on Football League World, which is obviously an article, a website that you do stuff for. This wasn't written by you, though, Chris, saying that we might be hijacking it.
No, it's not. This is the thing. You've got to be careful with some of the stuff like that we put out, because some of it's just is just like opinion-based stuff. And I think the article that Phil's referring to there was written by Will. I'm sure it was written by Will Lancaster, who suggested that we might could hijack that and it might benefit. So like it's like kind of sometimes just making sure to read everything like properly.
Yeah, to be fair to Football League, well, I think what they do is sometimes the headlines are quite misleading. That's why it has a bad reputation. Sometimes
it's whatever drives traffic. Do you know what I mean? It's one of them. It's be careful what you read. But Schlupp, no, I think Preston wants Schlupp as well. Though they won't get anything in that. I wouldn't have thought.
Well, we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's all I've heard. Obviously, Teller's bullshit. I wish people had stopped believing all this crap that's clearly crap. It was funny when people were getting and tagging me and stuff like, is this true? Like, no, just use your car. You don't even need anybody to tell you that it's not true. Just use your brain. You can clip that up when, in fact, if the club admin are watching this, feel free to clip that bit up when he re-signs in about 2 days, because then I would look absolutely stupid. And all the stuff's coming in the comments now. Football League World had Brownhill being courted by no less than 13 teams. I think, again, that's probably the fan stuff.
Again, that's been reported by other people. They're just churning stories out again. It's basic kind of, I don't want to say clickbait, but it's along them kind of lines, if you want to call it that.
Yep, fair enough. We've hit an hour. Is there anything else that I've missed that you want to bring up, Chris, before we wrap it up?
I think that was everything. I'm surprised we've gone an hour, to be honest.
Yeah, I am. Obviously, we got to 45 minutes and we needed transfers, but it's a good time of year to have transfers and stuff, to be fair. I keep saying I'll bring back the Clarets Daily News, and I haven't done it yet. I will do it at some point. It might only be for a couple of weeks. Join the race for Louis Barry, says David Earnshaw. I don't think we're interested in him. I don't think we want him. I think, from what I was told, he wasn't offered to us, but I don't think we're interested in him. John Lammas says, "Cheers, lads, we made it another round." Sui says, "Andrew's in the chat." Well, he's not anymore, mate. I think his hamsters have died. Up the Clarets, says John. Phil joined the chat quite late, as he said here. Evening, lads. He put that at 7:34 p.m. We started at 6:30. So if, like Andrew, you joined the stream late when I press end stream, which I'm going to do in around 30 seconds, the video stays on Facebook and YouTube for you to watch at your leisure. Chris is laughing.
Andrew's still here.
Oh, he's still here. There you go. His hamsters have got going.
Thanks,
lads. He's always late. Thanks, lads. Really enjoyed that. Andrew Turmo says, "I've not seen a Parker outpost for a while. Have the boys been brought on side?" To be fair, I think everybody in here was always relatively Parker in. I think Chris had a few wobbles, but it was never Parker out. I think Nathan, to be fair, was Parker out. But obviously Nathan, he don't really do the full-time shows. He's been on a couple. Probably will be on them again soon, to be fair. Just depends when he's free. Great show, boys, says Bob. Weather meant to be a good one next week, lads. Fingers crossed. Any transfer news on Andrew's hamsters? Well, I won't ask him that now, mate, because it'll take about 10 minutes to answer and I want to wrap it up. But yeah, like I was saying, I will quickly scroll up the comments so I don't see one that distracts me. If you want to watch the video, if you came in late, obviously when I press end stream, it stays on YouTube and Facebook for you to watch back at your leisure. And I will be putting it out as a podcast in pretty much the next 10-15 minutes. So if you want to listen to it on your way to work tomorrow, then you can do that. If you're about to go downstairs and watch El Clasico like I am, you'll be glad to know that Barcelona have just gone 3-1 up. Get in there. But thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And we will see you next time. Goodbye.